Last week I did a video and it was dealing with never lose hope. But unfortunately, I misquoted Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Very dear friend reminded me of my mistake. And instead of trying to edit the video, I decided to just go ahead and delete it. It was just easier to do that. So I appreciate that because I try my best not to make mistakes. I'm a perfectionist. That's one of my downfalls, if you will, because it can be a little taxing on me to be a perfectionist. But in those situations, I'm also reminded sometimes, though, that as a human being, I'm going to make mistakes if I'm going to do anything. It's those folks that don't do anything that never makes mistake, and I appreciate those comments from my dear friends. So, with that said, I also did mention though that we were going to talk about a series dealing with the Black church. And as I looked at that and thought about that a little bit more, I decided not to be so specific as far as race, expanded a little bit to the church in general, but the church specifically in America. And the things that I see as a preacher, teacher, that's going on in our country right now, and how the church is being affected by all of this. And so, some of the things we're going to talk about, my dear friend, Tony Owens, is going to be here next week. And we're going to just have that conversation that we normally have anyway. But as we were having these conversations, I thought, with his training that he's going through right now, he's a student at the Dallas Theological Seminary. And I personally believe he's one of the most prolific voices in theology today. He's really a very innovator. He got some great ideas, and I'm just looking forward to picking his brain a little bit more to get those ideas out to the world through this platform. So I'm excited about that. But the things that we were always been talking about, like I said, we've been having these conversations for some time now. Some of the things like our young people, the Generation Z, the Millennial generations, and we're watching that seemingly, and I don't know if that's across the board, but some of the churches that I do know I'm affiliated with uh, have less number of those generation of young people coming to church. And I'm really curious, why. I've been watching some other videos on the Jude 3 project. It was doing some things about that. So there's some things that are happening right now, and I begin to really wonder why is it that we're losing, our young people? What's the concern? And so Tony and I were gonna have that conversation. I know with him going to school and everything, I know that that is a particular subject that probably has popped up. And I know for a fact that, as I'm looking around and listening to young people, there are some really concerns that they are having right now. And so I'm averaging about 1,000 views on my videos right now. So within those thousands of views, maybe somebody's a young person who's listening, and maybe because would love to tap. I would love for them, obviously, to tap in into the conversation with the comment section below, and let me know maybe why you're not going to church. Maybe something happened, to you and it's affecting you as an individual. So I would love to have your comment. Another thing we're concerned with is the LGBTQ community and their relationship with the church, and how the church sees them and how they see the church, and those who are Christians but also are dealing with that lifestyle. What does that truly mean? Again, we're going to look at what does the Greek says, what does the Hebrew says about those things, what are the true translations of what Paul and then others have said about that particular lifestyle, and then also how does that incorporate our love for them, and all that. So I want to just really dive into that conversation a little bit more, and see what comes out of that because I think it's important. And then also we'll take a look at the women in the church. Now has been a very controversial subject for years, but I'm looking at least trying to look at what Paul said. What did Paul really mean when he said about the role of the woman at home, and what the role of the woman in the church as far as teaching and things like that? There's a lot of things that are concerning because Paul, you know, definitely utilized women in his ministry. So, what is the I think what is the true story there. So I think as we dive into this and really, look at the background stories and again look at the Greek translations of the text, we'll be able to sort of analyze, if you will, the scriptures so that we can make a little more sense of it all. Not saying that we're perfect, you know, my interpretation may not be yours, but I think it's important though to have an interpretation, to have an opinion on this and to tie it as close as we can to exactly what the Bible is teaching us and telling us. So, with all that said, I just think it's important for all of us to look at, again, what you're going through. So, again, I love to get your comments or any of this, or just in general. Why are you not going to church? Are you having problems with your church in particular? Are there things that are going on in the church that you're happy about? Maybe you're say, I got a great church. I'm very happy with that. I love to hear about that also. What some positive things are going on. But the world is changing. And I personally have some deep concerns with the way I'm seeing churches that are dying. I know particular one or two churches for a fact in Washington, D.C. right now, where I'm from, are dying. Periodically I go back to D.C. and I see some old friends and old pastors that I know. Maybe they've got 25 people in the congregation and no young person. I went to one church to visit and his youngest person was 50 years old. And so if there are no young people going to the churches anymore, then eventually that church was going to have some very dramatic issues. And we see this across the board. Some churches just, and some churches are good with, a small group of people and everything, that's fine. But I'm just overall concerned with the aspect of all that and what does that truly mean for the church of tomorrow. So looking forward to this conversation. Excited. Again, Tony's a fantastic young man. I'm looking forward just to picking his brain and getting his input. But again, your input is going to be important too. So as we're going through the next couple of weeks of this series, if you got something that's on your heart or mind, please write it down. Some of y'all are doing it already. I love your comments, and I try my best to, at least recognize them, either heart them or something of that nature, respond back to them, let you know that, yeah, I heard what you said, and I really appreciate your input on what we had on the subject I was talking about. But again, next week, we're going to talk about the church. Looking forward to that. Have a great week. And thank you for being such a great supporters. My subscriptions are gaining, each time I get a few more folks. Again, like I said, I'm averaging about 1,000 views. And for me, it's not about all that, but I do appreciate it. But I'm just trying to get the word out and what I believe God has placed in my heart. And I think the church is a major issue. Jesus Christ is our source of everything that we're going through. And the gospel is important to us. But we've learned so much from the gospel. The gospel is Jesus. And so that's what the gospel is all about. And so we never should lose sight of that. But if we don't come to church or have a relationship with the church to understand the Bible studies and Sunday school lessons and things of that nature, then we're missing out on understanding who Christ is in our own lives. And then, we may be saved, but there's so much more that we could be doing as Christians. And if our young people are not part of that process, then I believe we're losing out on reaching other young people because, we got folks who are not coming to church now. So those are the things we're going to talk about. Again, in the comment section, please make your concerns known, and we'll see you next week right here on Higher Learning.